Hey everybody, welcome to the T3S fight preview, sponsored by Texas Sports Life, hosted by me, Tyler Mellis. We're going to be breaking down tonight's UFC Vegas number 6, which is on ESPN Plus at 8 p.m. Central Time. It's headed by two co-main events. We got the fan favorite Derrick Lewis against the veteran Aleksei Oleinik. And then on the other end, we got Amari Akhmedov against the former champ Chris Weidman in the middleweight division. It's going to be two very exciting main events with three other exciting fights on the card. We're going to start off with the first fight on the card, which is going to be headed by Beneil Dariush against Scott Holtzman. Beneil Dariush comes in as the number 14 fighter. He's a negative 185 favorite against Scott Holtzman, who's a plus 165 underdog. Beneil Dariush comes in as the very dangerous jiu-jitsu fighter and dangerous striker on his feet with a southpaw kickboxing style on his feet. Holtzman is known more as a guy who's constantly on his feet, does not like to take it to the ground. He likes to get up and close and personal and throw a lot of shots in the pocket. These guys are really complete opposites of each other. You know, Dariush is a lot more comfortable on the ground. Holtzman's a lot more comfortable on his feet. Dariush's weaknesses play to Holtzman's strengths. Dariush has a weak chin, and he's known for not closing out on the ground as early as he should, leaving opportunities for the guys he fights to basically get back on his feet and continue to throw bombs. Holtzman, on the other hand, is very weak on his back. He prefers not to be down there. He's not comfortable. He again would like to prefer to stay on top and fight Dariush on his feet and control the pace. The way I look at this is it really comes down to how often can Dariush take Holtzman down to the ground? How often can he stay down there and dominate? If Holtzman can stay on his feet, he has a chance of winning this, but I think Dariush will be able to take him down and take him down constantly. And I think he will. He has improved a lot of the areas where he's been weak. And I think he should be able to keep Holtzman down and submit him. The way I see this is it's going to be dragged out a lot. There's going to be a few takedowns. There's going to be a lot of strikes against each other. Dariush is going to have to survive a lot of those, which I think he is. He will, and I think Holtzman will survive the initial takedowns. But eventually, as this fight drags on, I think Dariush will get the upper hand and he'll wear Holtzman down from all the takedowns. And he will get to the point where his ground and pound will soften Holtzman up, and then he'll be able to slide in there for one of his submission moves. So I got Dariush winning this in a third round submission. The next fight we got is a women's bantamweight fight between number 8 Yana Konishkaya, who comes as a negative 230 favorite, against Yulia Stulyarenko. Probably butchered her last name. Looking at the tail of the tape, Yana comes in as a little bit shorter fighter at 5'6" compared to the 5'7" challenger. I'm not even going to try to say her last name again. They're both coming in at 135. But Konishkaya has the 2.5-inch reach advantage, which I think will be extremely important tonight. She's an orthodox fighter compared to the challenger, who basically likes to be on the ground as much as possible. She's not known for on her feet striking ability. Which we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. When we're just looking at the strengths of the fighter, Konishkaya, gosh, these names are difficult, is skilled really all around, on her feet, in the clinch, down on the ground. She is impressive at both offense and defense. If we really look at one area, I think probably her ground game would be the weakest, although, like I said, she's skilled all around. But she is someone who's not really looking to close out fights. She's looking to kind of drag it out and win round by rounds and win by points, and eventually win by decision. The challenger on the other end is a submission artist. She's an excellent jiu-jitsu fighter. She has 8 submissions in her short career. This will be her first fight in the UFC, actually taking this on a 2-week notice. Her weaknesses are obviously going to be on her feet. She's still very inexperienced when it comes to her striking ability, which I think Kanishka should be able to exploit throughout the fight. But Storyarenko, from what I've seen, she should be able to defend herself enough to kind of drag this fight out and give herself opportunities to try to take Kanishka to the ground. When we look at these different areas where these fighters are going to kind of be in a danger zone they want to avoid, I think Kanishka in this fight wants to try to avoid being on the ground because Storyarenko is just so excellent on the ground. It's really going to be dangerous for her to give her top control, and basically from there it's going to be a wrap. Storyarenko should have that fight locked down. Storyarenko, on the other hand, she's coming in on a 2-week notice, so as this fight drags out, she should be concerned about just cardio and keeping up with Kanishka's fast pace. I think as this fight drags on, you'll see the fight really starting to shift to Kanishka, but I don't think Kanishka is going to finish the fight. I think what's going to end up happening is Kanishka is going to do what she wants to do, and she's going to win the rounds that she wants to win the rounds that she wants to win. And I think Storyarenko maybe can steal one round, but more than likely Kanishka is going to win by decision at the end of this. It's just really tough for Storyarenko to come in on a 2-week notice to try to win against an experienced fighter who's actually been fighting pretty well. So we'll see tonight how that goes, but I think, like I said, Kanishka should win by decision. The third fight right before the first main event, we got Maki Pitolo against Darren Stewart in the middleweight division. Pitolo comes in as a plus 35 underdog compared to the negative 155 favorite in Darren Stewart. This should be, I think, the fight of the night. It should be just two guys just hitting each other with shots every single round and just taking punches. It's going to be one of those fights that's just going to be very brutal. There's going to be cuts early. Guys are just going to be throwing all the shots that they can, trying to knock each other out, and they're going to be just baffled because the other one just won't go down. But I think eventually someone will go down, and I'll get to that in a second. Let's look at the tail of the tape between these two guys who come in as, slight differences. Darren Stewart has a little bit taller height. He's 6 foot compared to the 5'10" Pitolo. They come in at the same weight, a 186. And then Pitolo just has a 1-inch reach advantage. So he shouldn't really have that much of a reach advantage in this. They both come in as orthodox fighters. So there's no really advantage to that either. Really, these guys are very similar fighters. They both like to get in close, whether it's closing the distance just on the feet or actually locking up in the clinch and throwing bombs at each other. The only really difference is Pitolo likes to work the body even more, and Stewart, on the other hand, likes to utilize a little bit more elbows close up. When we look at the differences are probably the areas of attack for them that they could definitely exploit. Pitolo, on one hand, is extremely inconsistent, especially with his striking. He's an excellent striker, but there's some fights where he's just missing or he's just not bringing as much power as he normally does. Stewart, on the other hand, has a weak ground game, which I don't think Pitolo is going to really try to exploit. I think most of the fight, these two are going to be on the ground, but if Pitolo can take him to the ground and try to throw bombs from there, he would have the advantage. Really, the danger zone is really the same for both of them, as them leaving their head up in certain exchanges and punches and just basically just getting hit at the wrong time, or them not defending themselves when they're trying to set up different punches. Really, what it comes down to is who's going to eat the most shots without getting knocked down, who's also going to be able to avoid as much as possible. When we look at just kind of their last couple fights, Pitolo is coming off a 1-fight win streak against Charles Byrd, where he was able to take him to the ground and was able to knock him out from there. He could do the same against Stewart, although I don't think it's that likely at this point. Stewart, on the other hand, is coming in winning 4 of the last 5 fights. The one loss was an event that was basically like he picked up outside the UFC during this pandemic just so he could get some more fights in. He ended up losing, which it counts against his record, but is really not going to affect him in the UFC. Like it's you can kind of just ignore that loss for right now. Really, the way I see this is Stewart comes in, he has a little bit more momentum, even if he lost in that crazy fight, but he's won 4 fights. Pitolo has won 1 fight. He's really just been kind of inconsistent. I think Stewart's going to be more consistent throughout the fight. I think both of these guys are going to be throwing shots back and forth and basically just killing each other. But I think Stewart's just a little bit more powerful and a little bit more accurate, and I think he should KO Pitolo in the 3rd round after wearing him down. And yeah, so Stewart is the favorite, and I would for sure take the favorite in this fight. Moving on to the first main event, we got the number 11 Amari Akhmedov against the former champ Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman comes in just struggling a lot lately. You know, he had a historic start of his career where I think he won 11 straight. He beat Anderson Silva twice. He was just fantastic, and then he's just fallen apart since then. He tried changing divisions. That was not good. He went from middleweight to lightweight. Just not a good match for him. He's since returned to middleweight. This is going to be kind of a fight where he needs to win this, or basically his career is going to be done. And then Amari Akhmedov, this is a good fight for him because he has a great opportunity to beat a former champ and show that he's really a legit fighter, and he needs to move into the top 10. Chris Weidman is coming in as a negative 135 favorite compared to 115 underdog Akhmedov. This is a very close fight. It really could go either way. When we look at the tail of the tape between these two, Chris Weidman comes in 2 inches taller. He's 6'2" compared to the 6-foot Akhmedov. Chris Weidman is just 1 pound heavier at 186 compared to 185. But really, the big thing that stands out on the tail of the tape is Chris Weidman has a massive reach advantage. He's a 78 reach compared to a 73 of Akhmedov. That 5-inch reach advantage is definitely going to play a big role in tonight's fight. Stance-wise, they're just both orthodox, so there's no advantage there. Breaking it down even further, the strengths are kind of the same. Akhmedov has excellent ground game with his sambo fighting style. Chris Weidman is an excellent wrestler on the ground. So it will be basically a chess match if the two end up fighting on the ground sometime in the fight, which I do expect to happen at some point. But where Chris Weidman has advantages, he's more skilled all around. So whether he's on his feet or he's in the clinch, he's going to have the advantage. So for him, I think it'd be important if he avoids, well, he doesn't need to necessarily avoid being on the ground, but he needs to stay on his feet a little bit longer because he's going to be able to press his advantages and kind of work Akhmedov from there. And then maybe he can take him down at the ground at the end. Weidman really needs to wear down Akhmedov because that's Akhmedov's biggest weakness. He's notorious for starting extremely fast and then just completely falling apart in the 3rd. So Weidman really needs to wear out Akhmedov early, get him to fail trying to take down Weidman, get him to throw as many bombs as he can, and also Weidman needs to push the pace to run Akhmedov out of steam. Weidman just needs to be careful to not catch any bombs himself or get in a bad position on the ground and get submitted by Akhmedov. So as this fight goes on, if Weidman can pace himself well and wear out Akhmedov, he should have a pretty good chance to win this fight. See if there's anything else we need to talk about. You know, Akhmedov is coming in with a lot of momentum. I think that's going to play into him starting out fast. He's won 5 of the last 6, and the 6th was a draw that he probably thought he won. I think he's going to come in here thinking that he has a great chance to beat a former champ, and if he beats him in the 1st round, that's going to be extremely impressive and cause him to vault up the standings. like I said, Weidman has been struggling. He lost his 2 fights by KO. There is some danger of him getting KO'd in this fight, but not as much. He really just needs to be defensive and protect himself in the first couple rounds, and then the third round just really start to turn it on. That should be it for the breakdown of kind of their different styles and what they bring in coming to the fight. This is kind of how I end up seeing the fight going. I see Akhmedov starting very fast and him trying to wear down Weidman himself, but I think Weidman, the veteran fighter, is going to come in here prepared. He's going to pace himself. He's going to do everything he can. He's going to win that battle of wearing out Akhmedov first, and then he's going to basically get to a point where he is able to throw some shots at Akhmedov, wear him down, and then he's either going to KO him on his feet or he's going to cement him on the ground. I think it's more likely that he's going to KO him on his feet. I think Chris Weidman is going to get a much needed win. I think he's going to KO Mario Akhmedov probably in the third round. That'd be my guess. And then this much needed win would cause Weidman to kind of like basically have a return in his career, maybe start working himself back in the rankings and trying to work himself into the top 10, and maybe trying to get a chance where he can fight for the belt once again. So he really, when it comes down to it, Chris Weidman needs this more than anything, and I think he's going to do everything he can to end up winning this fight. After 4 great fights, we come into the main fight that I think every UFC fan and really every casual fan wants to watch, because you got the fan favorite Derrick Lewis from Houston, Texas. He is notoriously known for basically just blowing out people and just like drilling them with some bombs, and then having the most hilarious pressers right afterwards. He's known for saying things like, "Oh, I had to take my shorts off because my balls were hot," or I think the last fight he won, the fighter he fought had like a knife wound in his chest, like this hole, and Derrick Lewis was like, "Oh, I was trying to punch him in the booty hole he had on his chest." So Derrick Lewis is freaking hilarious. He has a hilarious dance when he wins fights. I think everyone's going to be rooting for Derrick Lewis to win so they can get that press conference, so they can get that funny dance at the end. But you can't count Aleksei Oleinik out at all. He is a very experienced veteran. Shoot, let's look at his record. He comes in with a insane record of 59 wins, 13 losses, and 1 draw. He's 43 years old. He's been around the block for a while. He's fought every style in heavyweight. Like he will be prepared coming into this fight. He's going to try to play spoiler to all the UFC fans that just want to see a very funny presser at the end. Derrick Lewis comes in as a very impressive striker. He's going to be a lot heavier than Aleksei Oleinik. He comes in at 6'3", 265. It's funny, like he was saying up to this fight that he was going to cut down. He's going to cut down. Everyone was saying at the weigh-ins he looked like he was slimmer, and then he weighed in right at the heavyweight limit. So it'll be interesting to see like if he's actually fixed kind of his body and like he's gotten a little bit better cardio, and we'll talk about kind of that weakness in a second. Aleksei Oleinik comes in at 6'2", 227, so he's a lot lighter than Derrick Lewis, but he's really not afraid of heavy fighters. He's said it in many of his lead-up videos, like he's not afraid. Like he's the smallest guy, one of the smaller guys in the division. He will submit you no matter what. Like this dude is just cold. Like all he wants to do is just choke you out. He has so many different ways to do it, and no matter who you are, he's gonna take you to the ground, and either if you're on top or you're on bottom, he's gonna choke you out. That's what he wants to do. He's the Boa Constrictor for a reason. He's just like, he thirsts on it. Like he really wants to just choke out every person in the division, and he has a great opportunity today against Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis is a great striker, but he is known for getting worn out easily. And now he's also had knee surgery too, so he's not going to be as explosive. He's going to be a little bit slower than he was before. Aleksei Oleinik has a chance to kind of slowly wear down Lewis and kind of wrap around him like a boa constrictor, hence his name, and take him down to the ground and submit him in all the different ways he has, whether it's guillotine choke, neck crank. What else we got? We got his Ezekiel choke. Like, he has all these different things in his tool bag to choke you out. Derrick Lewis has to be careful. If he gets down to the ground, like, it could be a wrap. I'm sure leading up to this, he's been practicing nonstop of how to get out of these different chokes and how to defend himself, and really how to stop the takedowns in the first place. I think it helps that he is 265. It is a lot harder to take down for sure. But once he gets down to the ground, he's going to be easier to pin. Coming into this fight, Derrick Lewis has won his last 2 fights by decision. Oleinik has won his last fight by decision 2. He's on a 2-fight win streak, which is very interesting because he's never, in his long career of, I think he's over 70 plus fights, it might even be 80 at this point, he's never won more than 2 in a row. So it'll be interesting. It's like something's got to give. Is he going to finally break that streak and win 3, or is he going to lose once again? Lewis himself, he's known for throwing bombs and knocking people out. He's got 10 knockouts in his career, including against Cain Velasquez, Jr. Dos Santos. He has the most in heavyweight history, but he has not finished a fight in his last 4 bouts. So that'll be interesting. This could possibly go to a decision, but I think both fighters are fighting for a finish. Oleinik really wants to submit as fast as possible, and then Lewis just wants to knock your head off your shoulders as fast as possible. If neither are able to accomplish them after, I think, 2 rounds, it's more than likely this could go decision. But I think they're both going to be trying quickly to finish each other. The way I see this, if Derrick Lewis can hit Oleinik with bombs early, and really just keep Oleinik on his feet and just keep punching him and defend as much as he can from getting takedown, I think he should be able to win this fight. He's got to keep the pace early, and if he doesn't knock him out, he's got to be able to last the next couple of rounds. He can't get worn out. We have to see if that cardio has gotten better. If the cardio hasn't gotten better, he's in trouble for sure past that first round. On the other side of it, Oleinik, if he drags this fight out but also doesn't wear himself out, and he wears Lewis out, and he's able to take him down in the 2nd or 3rd round, he should be able to submit Lewis for sure, especially in the 3rd round. I think Lewis will be done at that point. Expect a guillotine choke or Ezekiel choke or one of those chokes. He should be able to do it. So the way I look at this, Derrick Lewis has a great opportunity. He needs to win this. The heavyweight division is going to be up in the air over next week's fight once Daniel Cormier calls it quits. And then I think Stipe is pretty close to calling it quits too. So if Derrick Lewis wins this, he has a chance where he could be fighting for that #1 contender spot in the next fight, and then be fighting for a championship after that, or possibly fighting in the championship the next fight if he's impressive in this one. He needs to win in impressive fashion. Oleinik at the same time, he needs this win to actually start moving up in the ranks. He's been kind of bouncing back and forth all within the top 10. He needs an impressive win, and this would really give him one against a very impressive striker and show that he can continue to submit strikers and wear them down and defend himself against their bombs and do everything he needs to eventually win the fight. I think my prediction for this fight is I think Derrick Lewis is going to win the first round. I think he is going to actually be a lot better than we've seen in the past, cardio-wise and just pace-wise, and he's just going to be able to overwhelm Oleinik very quickly. So I got Derrick Lewis winning in the first round, but if Derrick Lewis does not win in the first round, I got Oleinik winning in the 3rd round. I think once Derrick Lewis gets out of the first round, it's just a bad sign for him, and it's going to start turning towards the experienced fighter in Oleinik. Before we close out today's show, I wanted to offer something that the listeners can take away from this. Even if you do not end up watching the fight tonight, you can learn something from this show. You know, Aleksei Oleinik comes in as probably one of the greatest of all time at submitting people by choke. He has so many different ways to choke people, from guillotine to neck crank, all these different things where he can submit people by different neck holds. But one of them that keeps standing out to me in a lot of these videos, a lot of these breakdowns, is the Ezekiel choke. And I think as a casual fan becoming a little bit more of a hardcore fan, like I'm still not quite sure. I still wasn't quite sure what that was. And I think most casual fans is like, what the heck is Ezekiel choke? Like, I think some people kind of know what a guillotine choke is because it's very common, but Ezekiel choke is extremely rare. Oleinik is, I think, one of the few people, if not the only person that's ever actually accomplished them in the UFC. So I thought it'd be good if I could just kind of explain what exactly that is, and to get more visualization of what it is. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube. The one I saw specifically is Daniel Cormier against one of his training partners, and they kind of just broke down step by step of how it gets set up and how it exactly works. The gist of it in simple terms is basically you're applying pressure with your arm across the back of the neck to to the person either is on top or on back. And then basically you're sliding the other arm underneath and grabbing that top arm. Basically you're causing like a clamp, but on his throat and on the back of his neck, and you're basically pulling him down. The impressive thing is, like I said, is you can do this actually from the ground with someone on top of you. The way I saw Aleksei Oleinik do is he set up where he had his arm on top of the guy's neck. He pulled him down to the ground. He basically locked him in, locked his head, so his head was on top of Aleksei Oleinik's chest, and the guy tried to break away and pull his head up, which created space, and then Aleksei Oleinik slid his hand underneath and then basically locked that down, and he choked him out from there to do the first Ezekiel choke in UFC history, which is a great video. I think that's also on YouTube. So yeah, the Ezekiel choke is something that could be utilized tonight against Derrick Lewis if this fight gets dragged out. Derrick Lewis will try to throw some ground and pound from top position. If Aleksei Oleinik can kind of wrap himself around and pull Derrick Lewis down, he may be able to slide that in and choke Derrick Lewis from the bottom. And that's the breakdown of the Ezekiel choke, famous by Aleksei Oleinik. And that does it for our show, our T3S fight preview of UFC Vegas 6, which is going to be on ESPN Plus at 8 p.m. tonight. Should be a very exciting fight, headlined by Derrick Lewis against Aleksei Oleinik. And then the other co-main event will be Mari Akhmedov against the former champ Chris Weidman in the middleweight division. Definitely check out that fight. If you can't watch it, go to the hashtag UFC Vegas 6, and you should be able to see some highlights of tonight's fight. Next week, we're going to be previewing the Daniel Cormier against Stipe Miocic 3 fight. That should be probably one of the greatest fights of all time. Their first 2 fights were amazing. And it will be Daniel Cormier's last fight and potentially one of the last fights for Stipe Miocic. So definitely check that out. We'll be posting that next Saturday right before the fights. Until then, check out our podcast every Wednesday at 8 a.m. We'll be talking about the 3 main sports in the U.S., baseball, football, and basketball. We'll be kind of breaking down everything that's been going on there. Also, follow us on Twitter at Texas3Step and at Texas3Step on Instagram. Answer any polls on Twitter and Instagram. DM us any topics you want discussed on the podcast. DM us any critiques of that show and also this show. And just keep up with us. We're going to keep growing things as we go. We're talking about bringing in an NHL show. That will be great. So just be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for the preview next week. Be on the lookout on the podcast next Wednesday. And that's it for the show. Peace.